Hi everybody, it's Joey Remenyi here from seekingbalance.com.au. I'm a vestibular audiologist, a neuroplasticity therapist, and I take great interest in following the journey of recovery for people with complex and invisible symptoms such as vertigo, dizziness, and tinnitus. It is a great pleasure to meet the people in my community who have invested in my programs, read my book, and really trust the philosophies that I'm sharing with the world. And this is the Rocksteady path of acknowledging our body and brain can change, and that we are the powerful ones to instigate that change and initiate that change and to trust the transformational process. Today, I want to introduce you to Beatriz from the USA, or should I say the US of A. And we're going to talk a little bit about her journey, and it's rich, it's raw, it's tender, and it's just a real pleasure for me to be here and meeting you today, Beatriz. So welcome.
It's my pleasure, Joey. It's a real dream.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing a little bit, perhaps with the listeners, just briefly about what aligned with you and the Rocksteady path and using neuroplasticity and becoming your own inner expert? What made you feel like there was a little flame in you saying, yeah, I'm going to try this?
The gift of desperation, maybe. Having tried many things, and my instinct thought that there was a tremendous amount of integrity, depth, and humanity in what I was reading. And the first thing I did was a 7-day starter kit, and something clicked. This sense of hope, and I had never heard about neuroplasticity in the way that you presented it. Of course, I had been a meditator, I had done yoga, but I never realized the connection, and that I had some agency in that. And when I did the 7-day starter kit, I then bought the book. And the book, your writing really blew me away in its simplicity, but it's such depth. And I hope that answers it. It was the book, really, and the level and the depth and the honesty, and then this is just ridiculous. It's too simple. And little by little, I realized that it was as much as what you were telling me is the more willing I am, the more agency I can have over this not quite right tinnitus that took me for a loop.
Yeah. And is it okay if I mention that you applied for a scholarship to also participate in the full program? And that's something I'm really passionate about, is making sure there are no financial barriers, and that if anybody seeks this self-study and this insight and this transformational process, I'm very aware that governments aren't supporting this, and some people can really get lost and fall behind because there is not that resource and support. So we have Rocksteady Scholarships to make sure it doesn't matter what country you're in or what your financial situation is, we want to support you. And so we are really advocating for access for all, and we have pay what you can scholarships so that people in various countries, third world countries, etc., or in all sorts of conditions, can access this support. So I'm really congratulating you that you reached out, because I think a lot of people would find that a tricky step, just to say, hey, I need financial help, but I really want to do this. And so you're in the Rocksteady full program.
Wow.
And yeah, so I'm really pleased that we could assist you in taking that leap from the book to the program.
And I have to thank you, because I the word shame is thrown around a lot, but I thought, my God, can I just throw this money together to do this? And I couldn't, for a number of reasons. And, sometimes they say what you don't pay for, you don't use. That's the contrary here. It's the generosity, and then just the inclusion. A lot of things that I've seen on YouTube, it talks a lot about, well, you need to get weekly sessions and this and that. And honestly, it's out of my my range, which is a gift. And that's the gift of your program, that I learned to be the expert, to take charge of this process, instead of giving my neck to somebody, or
and look, and it goes both ways. And like I've dabbled in both myself, in really diving sincerely into a self-study process and backing myself, and also putting the money out there and being mentored and having all of that. And I can see the benefit in both. But for me anyway, when I come back to me and when I take responsibility for me and when I pull away from the mentoring and therapy, it each time has blown my mind how I just rocket into this new place of sovereignty and knowing and trust. And so while a self-study online program doesn't replace private mentoring or therapy in some situations, actually in many it does. And it's almost a switch in mindset, as in, well, a good therapist is going to hold our hands and tell us we're okay and tell us that we've got this, and help us to feel safe in our body scans and in our body and in our inner world. And once we learn to do that ourselves through something like the Rocksteady process and hold our own hand and be present and witness and use our local family and friends and whatever we have access to, we're kind of getting the best of both worlds. And I think it's really important people don't feel lost or alone when there is so much at our fingertips.
What I want to say is that I don't know if you realize that it's a lifesaver, because it's not out of self-pity. I've been completely alone. I don't have, my family's next to nil. And for me to get on a computer, to get on a live call has changed everything. And, when you talk a lot about in your writing, in your book, there's a community, there's a Facebook page, and I'm like, what the heck? That's not going to help. That's not going to help. Slowly, it's helping tremendously, to the fact that here I am speaking with you, having met you just a moment ago.
Yeah.
And it's helping breaking that isolation. Because some people don't have community, some people don't have family, some people haven't been in the workplace, especially during the last 2 years of the pandemic and the lockdown here in New York. It's been very isolated, and it's been a lifesaver.
It is, and even for me,
your work has been a lifesaver, and thank you again for the scholarship. It's a great gift.
Yeah, well, even for me, it's changed my life, and I'm the one who wrote the book and developed the program. It really has been life-changing on so many levels. And I love the live monthly calls too. The fact that, so members of my Rocksteady program, we get together once a month and we can share our insights, we can ask our questions. And I love the way different people ask different questions, because sometimes it's like, oh, I wouldn't have worded it that way, but yeah, that makes sense to me. It's just this mirroring of human experience.
It was the call on April the 2nd was astounding. When you said, don't make it about the tinnitus, it's about resistance. And that really hit home. And you said, it's about the relationship I have to myself. And, it took a lot of chutzpah, as we say, to say, look, I need, and can I have a scholarship? And you were generous, and your company is generous. And you said, yes. It's very unusual. Joey.
Yeah, no. Can I ask, what have been, if you don't mind sharing, what have been some of the little aha moments or moments of grace when you've been engaged in the Rocksteady program and any of the modules? Can you share with the listeners perhaps any moments where you've thought, oh, I feel a step closer, not a step further in this moment?
I went through the whole program, and but I was flooding myself with many things. So I heard one of the most important things is you can do it in 6 months, you can do it in 6 weeks, in 12 weeks, or you can do it in 6 years. Mm-hmm. So that took off a lot of the pressure to get healed. There's that. A big aha, believe it or not, was the body scan. Yeah. It's very it just sneaks into me. Because the big aha is a place to put the resistance, no matter what, and that each module is packed with tremendous amounts of tools, of writing, of cross-referenced through YouTube and through interviews we've done with other people. And little by little, it's not about the program, it was me. I was rapacious. I wanted it done fast. The hungry ghost. I wanted to get it fast. But I also I know the whole time that I don't have to do that. So it was almost like saying, okay, go through that level of the onion.
Yeah.
Go through that and then come back to one. So it's the cyclical nature. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, perfect sense.
One isn't really one. One is 6 and 6 is 1. See, the structure is deceptively simple, but the simplicity, the accessibility, the big aha was basically how you just break things down with the resistance and having to name things. And when I finally put down my terminally uniqueness of tinnitus, let's say, and I started having the compassion for other people in my situation, that's when it clicked, saying, I'm not the only one. The self-pity lifted. And I don't want to admit it, but there's a lot of self-pity attached to a lot of this.
Yeah,
why me? I've been such a good human being. Why is this happening?
Why not me?
Why not me?
Not me?
And the notion of befriending this, that you also mentioned, I think maybe in one of the modules, I'm going afield, but how in some cultures, all these things can be a sign of a great transformation for a greater good. I know it sounds spiritual, right? But and how you drive home always, it's a spiritual, emotional, physical. And I thought, my, she speaks so fast. Yeah, she's really, but it's really the passion in each module, the caring in each module, and the universality that I'm not alone. That I got from the beginning. From the beginning, I'm not alone anymore. Yeah. And I'm not to blame.
No.
I'm not to blame. I didn't cause this. This happens, and it's not a terrible thing. There was one thing that I wrote. Yeah, it's not. Anyway, yeah, that's.
I think there can be such rich learning in the invitation to slow down and deeply listen to ourselves. Once we realize, and I've been through the goose chase, I've been through the powerless, hopeless, hopeless, all of that deep, dark stuff, and I think having those moments of grace, which can come from real darkness, can be that coming home to me, going, oh, the reason nobody else gets it is because this is me and my stuff. I can't expect someone to be teletransported into my inner world and suddenly get me and all of my 38 years experience on the planet and how that's manifesting in my experience, and really taking ownership over caretaking for that and tending to that rather than trying to be outwardly with it all. And I think those moments of grace and having the skills and tools, which is really the backbone of Rocksteady, to pause, slow down, listen, and then ask that potent question of how can I support you in this moment?
That's been a great turning point. And I'll tell you what, it's helped me overcome the sleep thing. Because, with tinnitus, and this, people will relate to it. Sometimes you hear it 5 in the morning and think, what is this? And I use the healing hands and say, you get through this. You just have, and that my body's okay. My body's just doing things to recalibrate or to find its balance, or there's that. You also talk about hormones in the program. And I didn't realize there are hormonal changes and the body changes because I'm of an age. It's a transition. Like when you're 15, you change, and when you're 55, it changes. No one's talked about that at all and addressed that. And that was a big click. And I said, okay. So little by little, but the healing hands at night, always, always, always. And I feel guilty when I don't do it. But you also, I think there's an exercise that you talk about, the elder talking to the younger person,
yeah.
Wisdom.
Have you tried that?
Yes. And that brings me peace. And I know that there'll be a day that I look back on these days, or the last year and a half with this journey, and I'll say, I made it through this, and I'm a better person for this. Better in the sense that I don't give away my power, my agency to, whether it's the medical profession, the banking profession, the whatever. It ends and starts with me, and it's not fantasy thinking. It's a very strong. This program is, everybody. If people could learn, in high school or middle school.
Yeah. Well, on a serious note, I am taking what I'm learning here and what you're saying. Like, for me, this is political, and now I'm deeply questioning, how can I offer a supportive environment for my children? And I've got a 7-month-old and a 2-year-old, so these are very little human beings. How can I offer them an environment where they're nurtured and supported to listen and trust themselves, to be so full of themselves that nobody else enters their being? They're not brainwashed or susceptible to fear-mongering and manipulation, and therefore they can be sovereign beings, kind, gentle, and compassionate to themselves, kind, gentle, and compassionate to others in the earth, and therefore have a completely different lived experience than what is considered normal these days? How can we bring these Rocksteady skills and tools into our infancy and help the brain develop these skills and tools straight up?
No, and I'm remembering how you say that neuroplasticity happens in the now, and that I can repair the past now.
Yeah.
And all whatever I'm carrying, whatever baggage I'm carrying. You talk about trauma in a very, very intelligent way, and you're not marketing, trauma. You're not on the marketing train for trauma or all these things. And I really appreciate that, because you can get so confused. And I know other people, by the time they get to your program, we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot of different things, and that's what makes me value your work more, all the more.
Yeah, and I'm currently bringing the overcoming physical and emotional trauma conversation into the Rocksteady community, because so many people with chronic vertigo, tinnitus, and dizziness actually will have a kind of overlooked or underlying trauma that's kind of getting ignored, dismissed, invalidated, because perhaps it doesn't fit with the regular acute trauma story. But nevertheless, it impacts our neural pathways and those repeating patterns of fight, flight, freeze. Mm-hmm. And so it's a really important conversation. And my belief, or like my dream for my children's generation, is that we're no longer on this health kick, improve yourself, find a mentor, find a therapist, train, and that actually my children know that whatever they feel, they're ready for, whatever they feel they can handle, whatever they feel they can process, they can willingly meet it, they can talk to themselves, they can trust their body, and they don't need to go out to get that advice, or that's, there's a level of just deep knowing that the body is so wise that if they have an experience that they need to suppress to protect themselves in that moment, that's perfect. And if 10 years later that suppressed emotion comes back for them to meet it and feel through it, that they're ready and they've got the skills and tools to be ready and to support themselves, and that conversation becomes the tabletop conversation.
Joey, the woman who got your program in July 2021 is not the same one who's sitting here today. That is tremendous. And you're speaking of your boys, and you have a brother, and that module with your brother was really unbelievable. And your candor, your compassion, your vulnerability, and his example of strength, that informed a lot. Not like, oh my God, I'm feeling guilty about feeling what I'm feeling, but saying the power of example, the power of what you're saying. There's tools that some people have innate, and some people need to learn. And I've been on this planet for quite a while, and I'm learning this now with the work that you're doing to us.
I don't think you're alone, and I don't think you've wasted a day. And I'm not sure if they're innate. Like I feel like we learn them naturally and innately if they're role modeled around us. But when I went to school and in my upbringing, the flavor of the ocean I was swimming in was being dismissed, being invalidated, being told to pipe down, shut down, go. There was a lot of don't go there, don't feel that, just be happy, just be grateful, right? So the role modeling wasn't there. And then I treated myself that way. When I had real, authentic experiences, oh, no, just be grateful. You've got food on the table and a roof over your head. Get over it, right? So that role modeling informed me. Then I had to unlearn that, learn how to get real and honest with myself, Joey to Joey, tend to what I was sensing and feeling in the world with compassion and grace and kindness, rewrite some of those old beliefs and old neural patterns that were absolutely not serving me and making it very difficult for me to sustain deep, caring, loving relationships, and, have a deeply affected life, to be touched, to be moved, to feel. I could live a functional life that is numb and distracted and living in avoidance, right? I didn't want that. And that's the Rocksteady process. It's about saying, well, yeah, I could live like this. I could keep distracting myself and buying stuff. Or I could question, why am I feeling this? How can I support this? Actually, not even the why am I feeling this? How can I support this?
You have an example in the book of a man who was a therapist and meditation teacher, and he comes to a point in his life that he's having all these, he can't even function. And that's the thing. you can be a therapist, you can be, quote, a healer, you can be a spiritual person, and you still are totally closed down to your own body and your own soul.
Or at least partly closed. And I think that
Right.
is generally accepted as a societal norm. And there are a lot of very intelligent people out there with PhDs that don't know how to feel. A body scan for them is really a foreign concept, because to pause and feel is uncomfortable, but to read and lecture is comfortable.
And there's the part that there's a body scan that comes from, whether it's Thich Nhat Hanh or John Kabat-Zinn, but it's about accepting, but you don't work with it. And that's a big part that you teach us.
Yes.
How to accept, not to manipulate, not to coerce, but that's where the neuroplasticity comes in, saying.
Yeah, the agency.
The agency. And it's not about, I have to feel like a marshmallow, or it's coming from like you said in one of your calls, which I had to write down, it says, somewhere inside of me, there's a lot of peace. Somewhere inside of me, there's a lot of love for something. There's peace for something. There's a lot of relief. Now, I can't fabricate that. That's coming from my own body, but I'd never heard the promptings that I heard from your work. And it's not like you seem to be extraordinary in the sense that you could overpower people. There's the power of magnetism, of personal charisma. Your program is about me finding my own charisma, my own power, my own magnetism.
Can I share a special moment with you that
I hope I'm making sense.
It was thank you for that. And I want to share with you, there was a pretty difficult time in my life. I was leaving Melbourne, which was a big deal because I'd lived there for 12 years and done all my studies and just been in the hoopla of living in a city. And I was choosing to come home, live by the beachside, quieten down. And I didn't have a partner yet, but I was preparing for that next phase of my life of marriage and children. And this was all pre-developing Rocksteady. But I had a moment where I just realized, wow, I've been trained at university to have power over my patients. I've literally had that role modeling. And it's like, I can tell you what your hearing loss is. I can tell you what you need for your ears and your hearing aids and your programming. And there's this kind of lip service of ask the client what they need or ask them how they are, but it's not deep listening and it's not true client-led healing, or there's no healing mentioned at all. It's just devices really and tests. So I came to this place of going, well, this just doesn't sit well with me. If I'm honest, I've just spent 12 years studying. And from an ethical, cultural point of view, I don't fit there. So I had to navigate my own workplace where I could actually feel my soul was singing. And the aha moment I want to share with you was when I realized, and it was like this weight off my shoulders. I realized, wow, I know nothing and I can't heal or fix anybody. But I know how to guide them to do that themselves. That's my gift. I can give them the power and go take it because it's not mine. And just the liberty I felt in recognizing that I knew nothing, but in the knowing nothing, that was actually a gift to give.
Pretty powerful. That's it. And it's not magical thinking. It's not like, okay, I'm just going to do affirmations or because Joey's telling me that I have the power. There's something with a lot of patience. It's like growing a new garden. Yeah. It's always been there. It's always been there.
Yeah.
It pulsed in the body. Before I was like, I had a long day and it's rare, but I was in the water and I could hear my body. I was like, okay, this is good. I hear my heart. I don't hear the things. Wow, isn't that amazing? That was a neuroplasticity there. I didn't hear what I was normally vigilant to hear. And I'm learning that. I'm learning it through your work. It's really helpful.
I love the garden analogy, and it's not all about flowers and it's not all about blooming and blossoming. I mean, just even recently I've had to collect caterpillars that were destroying a native tree that was important to us because we planted that bottlebush tree on my oldest son's placenta. And so we were all feeling a bit of a heart pang as the tree was dying, and then we figured out it was caterpillars. And it just reminded me that, some bits in life are icky, and that the whole process of how, well, maybe something needs to die for another thing to live. And we have a beautiful bush property down the coast where there are introduced deer. They're pests, they're not native. And of course, the deer can be prolific because we don't have a hunting culture in Australia. And you're not allowed to own a gun unless you go through pretty rigorous training and get a license, and for a specific reason. And the deer can completely devastate and destroy our waterways and our native flora and fauna. And it's that whole thing of, gosh, they're stunning, beautiful creatures. Not one part of me would want to kill that, but they have to go in order to protect an ecosystem. And the reason I bring that up is because this is what's happening inside of us. If we're the garden, we've got pests and we've got things that need to go in order for other parts of us to blossom and to grow. And so there's this, I guess, new appreciation of the cycle and the ecosystem and ecology within us, that we don't have to grasp and cling onto everything. Some bits we can face and meet and just honor and acknowledge that they're there. But as we let them go, or as we move through that, something that we create space for something else that we can participate in and choose. We can choose what we plant.
And what you're saying is that I can let go within a community. And I'm not there I'm not on the Facebook, and I'm not that much, but now I know that there's a bunch of like-minded sufferers on the human planet, or not even idealists, but people who want to say yes to life, who want to say yes to my own sovereignty, as you said. And I can work it out there as well. And what's working in my body, right? I'm lost. I had this great thing to say and I forgot. Damn. I was just going to say something very profound and I lost it.
It'll come back to you if it needs to. But the other thing, coming back to the garden, which is why it's such a great analogy, is I recently learned that weeds come through because they're the first things to break the soil. And so when the soil is sick or damaged, the weeds that come through help bring it back to life and help bring back all the microbes and the insects or the worms or the nutrients, and they might break up tough soil with their roots. And so the weeds are coming through in order to let the next thing, like to bring the health back to the soil. So the next thing that we choose to plant can have a better chance. And so it's really brought this new appreciation of weeds. And now when I look at weeds, when I'm out in the garden or down the street, I think, thank you, because you're bringing life back to the soil. Whereas I think the old Joey would have just been like, oh, I should get rid of that. That shouldn't be there. Because I've been told it's a weed, which is the whole external metric that's disconnected from the whole, from the ecology, from everything plays a part.
What's amazing about this work that I found during, probably a real weeds fear. I think of fear when I think of weeds. And, there's a lot of fear mongering going on in the world. As you said in your last call, there's a lot going on. The gift of fear is everywhere. It's contagious. And you never ever try, how do you say it in English? You never berate the medical model. The medical model has its place, but there's a place where the medical model falls off a cliff. And I'll mention it because maybe some people can relate. I was a caregiver or a care partner for my partner who passed away of cancer. And I took care of her for around 10 years. And then my mom passed. That's part of what brought me to this breakdown, meltdown. And there's a point where the medical profession says, the test trials don't work. There's nothing we can do. That's where this work is such a bomb and it's bringing the weeds and saying there's soil here. Even if you are on your last, if the chemo's not working, you're going to live till you don't. So how can you live with that? How can you live those next 3 months or those 3 weeks? How can you, and it's a dramatic example, but bringing it back to something as innocuous, and as you taught me, it's not harmless at all, as tinnitus, for God's sake. If I can bring that message first to myself and maybe share it with someone else that's suffering in many different, it's amazing. And anyway, I think you get my point. It's quite amazing to know that we have a place that we can have agency and not destroy the pre-existing systems, but we can go beyond them and change the standard. And the standard that you're helping me have in my life, I can only say, I'll tell you one thing, I couldn't even lift my head and go out. And last week I had a job as an interpreter in the criminal system in the city of New York. I decided not to do it because my body was telling me, you don't need to be here. But I went because of the strength that I've gotten from precisely looking at those weeds and saying, hey, weeds, you're here for some reason. Or here, tinnitus, you're here for a reason. Or here, not quite right, you're here for a reason. Or here, depression, or someone might have depression or insomnia or the PPV thing. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? It's amazing.
And you're learning to operate within the whole ecology and ecosystem that is Beatriz. instead of focusing just on one tiny part of you that might be deeply uncomfortable in that moment. But it's just a part, and there's all these other parts of you to hold that and bring that with you. And I think once that part of us doesn't need to kick and scream anymore, it quietens. It's no big deal, and it can take time to arrive at that quieter place.
That quieter place is one that I think I took for granted a lot of my life before. And now I have to let go of trying to put that fabric back together and just say, well, maybe we'll see how it goes. You know, I never know what kind of Beatriz is going to wake up. And I miss that. However, I know that it's about making a new neuroplastic tapestry.
Yeah. I might finish with one last piece that I'll share with you, and then I'm going to ask you to offer Beatriz words of wisdom and advice. But what I wanted to share was I feel like my piece has arrived. There's a common element, there's a thread, there's a pattern. So for example, anxiety and panic attacks. The minute I felt through that and really met it with curiosity and groundedness, something in me went, I don't mind if that comes back again. It really is no big deal. Panic attack, yeah. Kind of interesting. I'd read about it in books, feeling it. Something in me just really went, if it comes back, I don't mind. It never came back. And then same with the tinnitus. Once I got to this place of going, really doesn't bother me if it comes back. I'm neither here nor there. I'm not loaded. I don't need it to be anywhere. Just, I'm okay. It never came back. Like it didn't, unless it was like an environmental, like it lightened, it disappeared. And I feel like there was another example. I think it was the suicidal thoughts. Once I sort of started to realize that there's a richness here. When I go to this place that just wants out and I meet myself with a deeper self-love, self-appreciation, self-awe, when I really meet that darkness with my heart and with my wholeheartedness, there's a nourishment there that strengthens me. So it's almost like, I don't mind if it happens again. Whereas the old Joey would be guilted or shaming, I shouldn't be there, I should know better. Why me? There's none of that anymore. It's shifted, the dynamic shifted, and my need for some kind of outcome or agenda is really neutralized. And so I just wanted to plant that seed that can be holding it lightly, being present with our heart, being a part of a whole. I think that's really been some common elements in our conversation. And thank you so much for bringing your authenticity. Can you think of a little piece of wisdom or encouragement you might offer Beatriz a year or two ago? Something that she really needs to hear and that you now know you can offer her?
That's quite a question. Something about sitting still with the pain and the tantrum. Have the tantrum. I'm here for you. Beautiful. Have the tantrum. I'm here for you. And take as long as you need to. I will never leave you.
That's a good one.
Never leave you. And just take as long as you can. Push, kick, scream. I'm here. It's a lot, but I'm here.
Oh, I love that. And you know what? That is literally, you've taken the words out of my mouth of what I have been saying to my 2-year-old this week. And as a parent, sometimes it's like, I don't know if I'm doing this right, and I have been reflecting on what that my lived human 2-year-old son might be reflecting in my inner 2-year-old, and whether I'm telling myself that enough. Joey, I'm here for you. Kick and scream. It's okay.
And there's not just one 2-year-old inside. There's a lot of them, different ones.
Yeah.
And they want to have fun, but they've been neglected because I haven't been listening. I haven't been listening.
Yeah, and often we weren't taught how. So my wish for you, Beatriz, is that your recognition of your wholeness and your wisdom here and now is effortless. and that those parts of you that felt powerless, helpless, hopeless, lost, that those parts of you are held in your heart with kindness, with acceptance, and with belonging.
I hope you realize I'm absolutely in real gratitude. I'm thrilled beyond words and beyond expression. Your kindness and your generosity and your love for this community and for your work and the love you're giving me in this message right now. I'm very humbled. What a lucky person I am to have met you and to meet you through your work.
I feel humbled too. I really feel grateful you gave us your time. Thank you for gifting us your life force in this conversation.
To be continued, we have to pay it forward. That's what you're doing. You're paying it forward.
Yeah. So on that note, I'm Joey Remenyi from seekingbalance.com.au. If you feel like you want to join our community, join our monthly calls to learn how to implement neuroplasticity step by step in daily life and to really be the best version of you, the best mother, the best partner, the best human you can be, despite what the world's throwing at you. If you feel like you want to clear the confusion and clear the gunk of what other people are putting into your body and your life force, and it's time to get real and get clear on your truth, the Rocksteady process really is that journey. It is so much more than overcoming symptoms. However, a lot of our community understands you if you have chronic tinnitus, chronic dizziness, chronic vertigo, depression, anxiety, all of these very common elements in our community. This is the place to heal. So you're very welcome. Visit seekingbalance.com.au to learn more. Beatriz, thank you so much.
Buenas noches, Joey. I can't wait till you get all this stuff translated. If I can ever help you with that, I'd be more than happy to.
Thank you so much.